pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and legislative assemblies for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider our matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just a manner and a faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Good afternoon, members. Welcome for this afternoon sitting. Clerk, you can start us off.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
At this point, may I invite Honorable Nicholas Nzioka, leader of majority, to come forward and lay some papers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to lay the following paper on the table of the Assembly today, Tuesday, 23rd April 2024. Report of the Auditor General on Mavoko Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2023. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The said paper is committed to Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Thank you. Honorable, next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
May I invite Honorable Judas Ndawa, leader of Minority Party, to come forward and give our notice of motion. Honorable Ndawa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That aware that Article 43 is of Article 1A of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 providing that every person has a right to the highest attainable standards of health, which include the right to health care services, including reproductive health care. Further aware that Article 53(1)(c) of the same Constitution states that every child has a right to the basic nutrition, shelter, and health care. Aware that a baby's immune system is not fully developed at birth, hence the reason why children face a greater risk of becoming infected by getting sick. Aware that vaccination is simple, safe, and effective way of protecting children against harmful diseases. Before the diseases causing microorganisms come into contact with them. Further aware that the Ministry of Health established the Kenya Expanded Program on Immunization, KEPI, in 1980, with the main aim of providing immunization against 6 killer diseases of childhood, namely tuberculosis, polio, diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, and measles, to all children in the country before their first birthday. Aware that vaccination uptake for children under the age of 1 year here in Kenya is 83% against the global average, which is 86%, according to the National Institute of Health 2023. Acknowledging that uptake of this mandatory vaccine is lower in rural areas and the ripple effect is children with deformities and high mortality rates. Aware that some of the young mothers in our rural areas are not privy to the mandatory vaccines due to lack of exposure. Honorable Speaker, I wish to give a notice of motion that this House urges the county government of Machakos through the Department of Health to put up measures to ensure that, 1, mothers are sensitized on mandatory vaccines for children both at prenatal and postnatal clinic. 2, community health promoters are well equipped with the knowledge to sensitize mothers on the Kenya expanded program on immunization, KEPI schedule. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Ndawa. May I, at this point as well, invite Honorable Evelyn Zeki, Minority Whip, to come forward and give a notice of motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Zeki Evelyn, the true voice of Kangundo East Ward. Honorable Speaker, that's aware that Article 43, Sub-Article 1F, Constitution of Kenya provides that every person has the right to education. Aware that Article 53 of the Constitution provides that every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education, basic nutrition, shelter and health care, protection from abuse, neglect, harmful and cultural practices, all forms of violence, inhuman treatment and punishment, and hazardous or exploitative labor, parental care, and protection. Further aware that Part 2 of the 4th Schedule of the Constitution provides that the county governments are mandated to oversee pre-primary education, PPE, and child care facilities, CFF, including the hiring of the pre-primary education teachers and assistants. Acknowledging that Article 189, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution provides for cooperation between the national government and the county government in performing the functions and exercising powers in the provision of proximate and easily accessible services, aware that the National Pre-Primary Education Policy Standard Guidelines 2018 clearly outlines the standards that should be followed in putting up infrastructure for the ECD classes. Aware that there have been cases of vandalism for the stand-alone ECD classes, giving an example of Kadama ECD class in Muvuti Kimakimwe Ward. Further aware that the stand-alone ECD classes lack basic amenities like toilets, kitchenette, food store, and office space for the ECD personnel, like the case of Kisekini ECD Center in Kangundo East Ward, Kadama ECD Center in Muvuti Kimakimwe, Sawasawa ECD Center in Masinga Central, Mungala ECD in Mumuni North, and Chandu ECD Center, among others. Further aware that the ECD classes are hosted by primary schools, the ECD learners share amenities with the primary school pupils, which is against what is stipulated in the National Pre-Primary Education Policy Standard Guidelines 2018 and the County Pre-Primary Education Policy 2019. Noting that the National Pre-Primary Education Policy Standard Guidelines 2018 and also the County Pre-Primary Education Policy 2019 gives clear guidelines on the ECD standards that ought to be adhered to. Honorable Speaker, I wish to give a notice of motion that this House discusses and approves that the county government of Machakos, through the Department of Education, sets aside adequate funds in the department's budget to cater for the construction of all the amenities, that is, toilets, kitchenette, food store, and office space for the ECD personnel that are required to set up ECD centers, strictly adhering to the set out guidelines and standards. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
May I invite Honorable Nicholas Nzioka, Majority Leader to come forward and makes the statements.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee met today, 23rd April 2024, to prioritize business for the House as forwarded by committees and honorable members pursuant to the provision of Standing Order Number 151, Suborder 6D. The committee balloted business as follows. Tuesday afternoon, 23rd April 2024 at 2:30 p.m. 1. Statement on status of Machakos County People's Park by the Honorable Brian Kisila. 2. Motion on adjournment on definite matter of urgent county importance by the Honorable Judas Ndawa. Wednesday morning, 24th April 2024 at 10 a.m. 1. Statement on status of EN dispensary in Kiva Ward by the Honorable Alphonse Mutinda. 2. Motion on sensitization of mothers on importance of vaccination of children by the Honorable Judas Ndawa. Wednesday afternoon, 24th April 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Motion that the county government considers constructing all the necessary amenities that are required to set up an ECD center by the Honorable Evelyn Zeki. Tuesday morning, 30th April 2024 at 10 a.m. Report on assumption of office of the second governor of Machakos County by the Honorable Phoebe Koki. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader. May I invite Honorable Brian Kisila, MCA Mwala, to come forward and give a statement on status.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Brian Kisila, MCA Mwala. Madam Speaker, I'm a lover of Machakos People's Park. And I visited the park about 4 weeks ago, and I sought this statement. Madam Speaker, I also visited the same park yesterday in the afternoon, and I realized the issues which I was going to seek. The Excellency the Governor and the Executive have moved very fast, and they are in the process of restoring back the park to its previous glory. So, Madam Speaker, I'm confident that what the speed they are moving at will be able to get the park back to its former glory. So I wish to state that I am contented with the action which the executive is doing. So I will want to, I don't withdraw the statement because I am convinced with the speed they are moving that within, they've assured me, I talked also to the to Chief Officer, within 1 month, the park will be back to its former glory. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Brian. The withdrawal request is hereby granted. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, adjournment on definite matter of county importance.
May I invite Honorable Judas Ndawa, MCA Matu Ward, to come forward and move that motion. Honorable Ndawa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The motion, Honorable Speaker, is backed by Standing Order Number 30, which allows the House to suspend any other business and tackle an urgent matter of county importance. Honorable Speaker, that are aware that climate change is a major threat to Kenya's socio-economic well-being, and that one of the indicators of climate change is excessive precipitation causing flooding of rivers. Aware that climate change effect has led to rollback of development gains made over the years, and it threatens the attainment of Vision 2030. Aware that Part 2 of the 4th schedule of the Constitution provides that matters of environment, stormwater management system in built-up areas and water and sanitation services are functions of the county government. Informed that Machakos County from the month of February this year has experienced extraordinarily high rainfall resulting to floods, loss of lives through drowning, overflow of rivers, displacement of families from their homes and destruction of very essential infrastructure. Aware that many areas of the county, especially in the river, Mololongo and Matungulu wards, have seriously suffered the effect of flooding in the residential areas, specifically areas. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move a motion that pursuant to Standing Order number 30, this House adjourns to discuss, 1, that urgent rescue measures of the affected families be undertaken. 2, that the physical planning of the affected areas be rechecked to verify if the planning matches the original master plan, especially in the river, Syokimau, Joska, and Ngoloni areas. 3, that the environmental impact assessment, EIA, report prepared when undertaking the construction of the surrounding building structures be checked to see if the constructed structures are in compliance with the Environmental Management and Coordination Act provisions. 4, that the approvals of the approvals and the approval process done for the constructed structures and adjacent to the flood affected areas be verified again. And the last one is that the operationalization of the emergency fund regulation be fast-tracked and the emergency funds in the budget for financial year 2023-2024 be applied as per the regulation to address the emergencies in the affected wards as a result of ongoing floods. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. You may call a mover. A seconder, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I call upon the Deputy Speaker to second my motion.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Deputy Speaker. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I now propose the question that pursuant to Standing Order number 30, this House adjourns to discuss 1, that the urgent rescue measures of the affected families be undertaken, that the physical planning of the affected areas be rechecked to verify if the planning matches the original master plan, especially in Athi River, Syokimau, Joska, and Guluni areas, that the environmental impact assessment EAI report prepared when undertaking the construction of the surrounding building structures be checked to see if the constructed structures are in compliance with the Environmental Management and Coordination Act provisions. 4, that the approvals and the approval processes done for the construction structures adjacent to flood affected areas be verified again. And 5, that the operationalization of the emergency fund regulations be fast-tracked and emergency funds in the budget for financial year 2023-2024 be applied as per the regulations to address the emergencies in the affected wards as a result of the ongoing floods. I now wish to invite members to debate this motion. Unless the mover wants to highlight anything, we can go straight to the debate. Let's proceed. Honorable Ndaka. Then Honorable Brian Kisila.
Madam Speaker, I think is a good motion which was brought by the one Honorable Ndawa. But Madam Speaker, I think the custodian of master plan is the executive. The custodian of the approval of those business, those are construction site, is the executive. The custodian of the rescue mission going on is the executive. As we start to debate the motion, I think as a house, we should be served. We should be served with the current update on whatever mission is happening right now. Because to start discussing a motion of such a bigger issue like that one without an update, I think there is no progress we are making.
You may respond. Then Honorable Brian.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Getaka, the member representing the great people of Tala. Honorable Speaker, it is within the public domain, and anybody who resides in Machakos County is aware that the rains we are experiencing now, this season, is different from what we have been receiving before. Honorable Speaker, we have witnessed through social media, and Honorable Speaker, I, together with the members of the Environment Committee, plus the Speaker of the County Assembly, yesterday, toward the areas that we are talking about, we started at Chumpi. Chumpi, we saw what is happening. Honorable Speaker, we witnessed that there is a river which emanates all the way from Mua Hills, at Songo's area, downwards. It goes to where the road we call Songo Road, where we want to, the national want to do an interchange. Then from there, immediately it crosses the Mombasa Road. On the other side, there is a Moindi, we took the number of the owner of the plot, who has already constructed a wall, a perimeter wall, blocking the water. The stream is now blocked, so the water relocated to another area. It went to an estate. Honorable Speaker, we took photos there. The residents cannot sleep in their house. Right now, the honorable member for Kenani has left because the department that handles special cases, led by one director, Kalontu, are on the site now, giving foodstuffs to the affected residents of that area. That is why Mheshimiwa was left. Again, we saw another wall constructed by one. Oh, you have come back. Oh. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
He had shared with me
I
that.
think he has sat in the wrong place.
Yes,
Even
but
me,
he
I
had
was
shared
not
with
seeing
he had shared with me that they are going to issue food stuff.
Okay.
Then from there, Honorable Speaker, the team went to Kenani. We met somewhere with you, and we all went to the farthest end of Kenani, where we found that where the river is, the main river, that is the River Athi, we have families which have their homesteads between two rivers. There is the main river and there is like a tributary in between. Honorable Speaker, we were informed by the residents from that area that the previous night water was very much and they were rescued using a Red Cross boat and another boat from the county. We still have features to confirm that. So, Honorable Speaker, from what we saw, if we don't act as an assembly, if we don't speak as an assembly, The assembly is the highest decision-making organ of the county. Our residents may end up being washed away by these floods, and we try to talk to some. Honorable Speaker, you were there.
Yes.
And some confirmed to us that they are not willing to relocate. And Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, if you jump from a tree downward, you can be said you are trying to commit a suicide. If you throw yourself into a river, or you stay somewhere where you can be washed away, you can as well be termed as trying to commit suicide. And Honorable Speaker, the charge that can be referred against that particular person is what we call demeaning in the law. Demeaning law. If anyone assists that particular person either to commit the suicide, whether the suicide is committed or not committed, that particular person who has assisted can be also liable, and the limit for that charge is life imprisonment. Honorable Speaker, the matter before the House is very urgent. Last night, Honorable Speaker, in our Mbauda, that is Machakos and Kiambu County, opposite Goriba, a resident was trapped in between two streams. And by evening, members of public were there, a very big crowd. But at 2, everybody went back to his or her home and left that person on top of a tree. We were told that arrangements had been made for him to be rescued using a chopper. Up to now, we have not received any report whether that particular person has been rescued. So that is why I found it wise or fair enough to request that we discuss and address the issue so that what can be done is done so as to save lives. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ndawa. This matter before us this afternoon is of county importance. What we are discussing here is a matter of life and death. What I mean is that it is very, very urgent because families have been affected by the floods, and I think the affected families or the affected residents have been mentioned in that motion. So we cannot shy away from discussing this motion because all these documents are domiciled within the executive. It is our duty to make sure that we address matters that are affecting our people, and therefore it is the ruling, it is my ruling that we proceed with this debate because of its urgency and the importance. Let's proceed with the debate. Honorable Brian.
Madam Speaker, I agree with your ruling. In fact, Madam Speaker, remember 2 weeks ago, I stood here opposing the reduction of monies from emergency fund. And the reason which the budget committee gave was because we did not have regulations. Honorable Dawa is a member of that committee. You cannot afford to reduce money from emergency fund when you are not seeing what will happen tomorrow. I agree with him and I support this motion. And we should move very fast. In fact, the reason, I even follow it up, the reason why we cannot have emergency fund is because we don't have the regulations. The regulations are not there. Sorry.
Information, Honorable Speaker.
We do not, I don't want the information, but I went to the executive. We don't have regulations which have been approved by this assembly. If you have a copy which has been approved by this assembly, give it to me.
What about Roman 5? What is it saying? That the operations
Yeah.
operationalization of the emergency funds regulation
the-
be fast-tracked.
The reason we
So I
were
think it
given,
is not available.
sorry, if you remember last week, the reason the budget committee gave us for reducing over 20 million from emergency fund was because we don't have regulations. That is what we were told.
Point of
Unless
information,
I'm-
Honorable Speaker.
Point of information taken. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From that bullet you have referred us to, we have the regulation in place. What is lacking is the operationalization. The executive has not formed that committee. That is where the delay is. The committee which is supposed to operationalize the funds that we have. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you for clarification. Proceed, Honorable Brian.
Madam Speaker, I still insist the reason we were given. Members who are here, the reason why the reasons the budget committee gave us for reducing money for emergency was we did not have the regulations in place. If they are there, then that's okay. If you use the wrong reasons to reduce money from emergency, then that's okay.
Point of information taken. Honorable Brian, have a seat.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. What I would want to inform the Honorable Member Brian, we've got Machakos County Emergency Fund in place, but the problem that we have is it was passed with some with a disclaimer that before it operationalizes, we needed to have a disaster management plan, which is supposed to be formulated by the executive and passed by the county assembly. And the same has not yet been done. So we are expecting any time the executive to submit or to bring the management, the disaster management plan, so that it may be approved by the county assembly to allow the fund to operate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
When were the regulations passed?
The regulations, I believe, they were passed sometimes 2021. The regulations and funds, and the fund is there. We've got the fund, and also the regulations are there. But the fund requires the executive to form the disaster management plan. That is supposed now to allow the COB to release funds to the county, the same funds. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Then I think the executive has taken a long time to really conclude this matter, and they should fast track it. Proceed, Honorable Brian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the DS has actually clarified it. That I remember in my mind there was a reason why we reduced the money, and we cannot use that money. We can't. So I think what out of this motion, what we need to do is to give the executive timeline of when this disaster management plan should be brought here and tabled to this house and approved. Because without that, we will not have any money. Even now, what Honorable Dawa is saying, the last bullet of emergency fund, we can't use it. We can't use it. But I agree with him, there is a need. In fact, there is a bigger need of even making this fund even bigger. I come from Mwala. I happen to be a neighbor to the River Athi. A lot of my neighbors came to my home last night to seek shelter because water levels became very, very serious yesterday. So I stand to support. But also, Madam Speaker, this House needs to be very serious about the amount of money we are allocating to roads. Most of the roads are now impossible. And in fact, they have become emergency. They have become emergency. Most of the roads in our county. So we need more money to rescue people. Several homes have been destroyed, and several roads and bridges have gone. So this assembly needs to critically think about the amount of money they want to allocate to that fund, which can also cater for roads which have been swept by the floods. I support, Madam Speaker.
I agree entirely with you, Honorable Brian, that we need a budget for that. Yesterday, I accompanied the Committee on Environment to Kinani, and I saw a lot of destruction of property because of the floods, and houses had been flown, animals had been carried by the water, and there was a lot of destruction, and people were there, didn't have somewhere to go. When we spoke to them, they were reluctant to relocate, but I think at the end of the day, they may have to relocate because that is the lasting solution for that problem. So budget is important for this matter, and it is the way to go. Honorable Brian, I support you 100%. Let's proceed with the debate. Honorable Kavyu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the motion, and my plea is that regardless of the absence of any regulation or proper guidelines on what needs to be done, even at our homes, when there is an emergency, you will find yourself spending money that you had allocated for other things. And therefore, we need to look how fast can we assist our people to regain their momentum and continue with their day-to-day life. And my area of concern is in regards to our planning department. Because, for instance, if you look at a case, Mavoko, as a sub-county as a whole, the reason every now and then our people have to stay overnight, have to endure the agony of being marooned by water, is as a result of poor planning and lack of clear drainage system. So as a county, there is need for us to have a proper drainage design, and also when the members of the planning are approving any plan for building, they should move from the comfort of their office, because most of them never take time to visit. Whenever you go there, as long as you have paid, and you produce a receipt as a proof of payment, you will be granted an approval. They never take time, and a classic example is what the Committee on Environment saw yesterday in Chumvi. Those 30 families are suffering because of negligence, and somebody who just gave an approval for somebody to do a perimeter wall on a water path. And whenever that happens, it means the river will have to find a route to continue with its journey, and that's what is causing our people suffer. So our appeal is to the concerned department to visit the area and make sure any water path that has been blocked by human activity is secured, so that water can continue flowing. For those people who have been there for over 30 years, and we have never had a single case of flooding until the developer did a perimeter wall to block the area. And also, Kenya needs to be called to their attention, because the construction that is ongoing there and the design of the bridge that was done there, most of the water that comes from Moa Hills is being drained and channeled to those homesteads. So as long as that is not corrected, the people of St. Stephen, Itimboni, will continue suffering that fate whenever it rains, whether it is an El Nino or it's just normal rains because the waters have nowhere to go. The other thing that needs to be looked at is we have areas that have been set aside as riparian land. We also need to educate our people and ensure, even if they are going to do farming, nobody should be allowed to build permanently or to build a residence within 30 meters or 50 meters of the rivers, because Athi River is not a small river. So anytime there is a lot of rain, anybody living within 50 or 30 meters within that radius, there is a highly likelihood that those people are going to suffer. So we also need the other agencies like WARMA to check and provide proper guideline and ensure that those areas are clearly marked, and anybody who is found living within those boundaries, then the authorities should take the necessary action, because today we might have been fortunately enough to rescue them on Sunday, but you never know. The next time the river might flood in the middle of the night. So by the time we come to their rescue, people will be swept, and it has happened before. And measures need to be taken. We don't need to be reactive every now and then. We need to plan early enough and ensure that water paths are clearly. And lastly, as I sit down, I think we need to make a special appeal, especially for the wards in Mavoko, and especially Mheshimiwa for Athi River Township will confirm every time there is rain, there is no drainage where people, when they are building, they can connect their sewerage or their drainage system to. So every now and then, water is forced to find its way to either to the river or to wherever it normally goes to. So I think Mavoko and probably Machakos town, where every place has been inhabited by human being, we need to have proper water channels that can help drain waters to ensure that it doesn't have to flow through people's homes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kaviu. Honorable Mbula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Sorry about that. I stand to support this motion. One, it's quite serious for the people who are living in the lowlands. I have heard some honorable members say water flows from Mua. I may say Mua, we are very lucky because water just goes down. But it goes down to our sisters and brothers and they end up suffering. Now, we are saying we have no budget, Honorable Speaker, for this. We do not know when these rains are going to go. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in another 2 months. And I am just wondering, in those 2 months or so, shall we have had a budget for that? Because in the whole system, drainage is very, very bad. You find in the rural areas, pit latrines have just come out and we are crossing over them. Waste is all over and it is very dangerous. Honorable Speaker, I have relatives in Guluni and people have not been able to drive out for the last 2 weeks. It just flooded. Roads have been cut off completely. And people are just wondering what will happen in the future. We are telling people to relocate, but I'm asking myself, where are they relocating to? Have we given them space elsewhere? Unless then the government has looked into it and given some space. I do not think we are helping them when we are telling people to relocate. Some have many children, they live in one house, And everything is done there, and the water has distracted them even. Even going to school for children has become a big, big problem. So, Madam Speaker, I stand to support this and ask for the government to do what it can do as soon as possible, considering we have even lost lives. People may not know, but some have drowned, others have died because of stress, and so forth. So I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mbula. It is said that there is this emergency fund, and why the emergency fund cannot be used is that we have to have regulations, and why the regulations cannot be used, it's because they have not been operationalized. So it's a chain of issues that are hampering us to use this fund that I believe is available. So therefore, it is something that can be sorted out, and then this fund is used to rescue and help those who are affected by the floods. And it is a matter of just fast-tracking these regulations to be operational. Am I right? Yeah. Yes.
Madam Speaker, it's the same point I'm raising.
Yeah.
The money is not available. We started with 90 million. It was reduced by 70 million. Now we only have 10 million. In fact, members, check the last supplementary budget. Chairman budget is here. The only money available in that fund is 10 million shillings. We started with 90 million fund. You reduced to 70. Further, you reduced to 10 million. Please refer to the last recommendation of the last supplementary. It is there. It is, in fact, it's point number D, if you remember. And the chairman budget is here. We only have 10 million. So let's not say fund is there. It is not there. Unless, as an assembly, we come back and constitute a new fund for emergency. We don't have any money for emergency. We only have 10 million shillings for information. And you can refer to last supplementary. And members, please, everybody was given this. Please refer to the points which were there in the last supplementary budget, so that we know when we talk with facts. We only have 10 million.
Thank you, Honorable Brian. Honorable Ngunga.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I also raise up to support the motion, but of course with a few riders. One of it would be, number one, as has been said by Honorable Brian, says that the money that we have at the emergency fund is too little for so much. But remember, members, that there is already a rule that we should set aside 2% of our budget for emergency. If you look at the budget that we did for this year, it was about 14 billion. And if you look at 2% of 14 billion, that will take you to almost 280 million. And that is the kind of money that we should be discussing as emergency fund here, Madam Speaker. If we are 280 million set aside for emergency, then we'll be talking about even funds that will be there to remedy the roads that have been washed away, the small bridges that have been washed away, the homes that have sunk, the toilets that Madam Mbula is talking about, and so forth and so forth. So here, Madam Speaker, I will be talking about the failure to plan. I am from a committee of lands right now. I was with Honorable Mbula, Honorable Kaloi. We are sitting in that committee. And one of the things that came out clearly, because all the departments are meeting there, is that for the last 30 years, Machakos County government has not done planning. And so what we are experiencing here are effects of lack of planning, members. It is actually very urgent that there's a house that we plan ahead of time. A county that does not plan, of course, will be often be finding themselves in this kind of a mess. We might be talking about 10, 20 million here to remedy the situation that is. Of course, that's allowable. But in the long term, because these rains will keep on recurring, of course, as we are discussing this, realize, members, this is a global issue. It is not only in Machakos here. We are talking about it's actually country, it's Africa, it's world. You look what is taking place in Dubai is unusual. Dubai, the floods are all over. The airport is flooded, Israel, Pakistan, and all over. Actually, this is a situation that is facing the whole world. But as a county, then we need to put our best foot forward. And the best foot forward will be planning. In the next 18 months, Madam Speaker, if this House avails proper budget, we are going to have a nice development plan for Machakos County. That ranges in all the borders that we have for Machakos County, and that is the information that we have with the members from the Lands Committee. So, Madam Speaker, idea here is that we need to set aside funds adequate enough for every other year within our budget to forestall these issues of emergencies. Emergencies can come in so many forms. They can come in this kind of floods here, can come even in extreme heat. It can even come in earthquakes, can even come in terms of a road carnage. Like, for example, sometimes you have accidents. We need to inject funds. And so when the budget talks about 2%, and the chair budget is here. If I am wrong, I will need to be corrected when I'm on the feet. But it is 2% that we should set aside. This money should be apportioned and put aside in that emergency fund. So in hiyo pesa, Madam Speaker, inakaa hapo. Ni pesa ya kungoja, si ati ni pesa ya kutumia. So that when we have these emergencies here, we do not keep on having this kind of emergency situations that we are discussing. So that the executive will just go straight. They will come and give us a requisition. We approve, they go and spend the money. And that is what, Madam Speaker, a prudent county government does. As it is now, Madam Speaker, I have said we have a problem of planning. We need to apportion a lot of money. The Minister of Lands was actually pleading with us so that in the next budget we apportion the money so that we have already have a developer who is on the ground. Is it called Dev Kenya Limited. The personnel is already on the ground, but what they are going to lack is funds. I'm sure when the time for planning, funding comes here, we shall be asking lands wanapewa pesa wapeleke wapi. Madam Speaker, you are light. We need funds for planning in this county here. You are talking about Mulolongo. You are talking about Tala, where Mheshimiwa Kataka comes around. But look at Mua also. Madam Bula is talking about Mua of the Hills. That's a very small village. We are talking about Mua that covers Katelembo, this area, where you are seeing all these buildings that are up here. As you move from Machakos town towards Kadome, that is Mua now. And look at the kind of buildings that are coming up, haphazard buildings that are coming up. Private developers are ahead of the government. What is happening is that private developers are developing ahead of the government without any planning. So, Madam Speaker, for the sake of posterity, we need to put in money for the sake of planning, so that we plan all over Kibauni, all the 40 wards, we do proper planning, and so that the government becomes ahead of the developers. As you develop a school, it must have all the amenities. Like, for example, I have just heard Madam Zekia saying that we need to have ECD, that we'll have a kitchenette, that is also lack of planning. How do you do a structure, standalone structure, like I have one in my ward, where we did an ECD class in a village somewhere, standalone. There is no toilet. Then, Madam Speaker, I'm forced by the villagers to go and do a toilet for them. We need to do proper planning. As we take an ECD class somewhere, that ECD class will be accompanied by an administrative area, a kitchenette, as she's saying, a place I don't know. All these kind of things, there are technical guys who should be able to do that. And then, therefore, Madam Speaker, we therefore do not need to do, these small touch-ups here for the sake of it. Yeah. Therefore, I'll be pleading with the Assembly when the right time comes, as a member of the Lands Committee, so that we forestall this problem once and for all. We put in a budget. Mheshimiwa Kizila will be talking about roads and roads and roads and roads, but roads that are not properly planned, idea, because most of you guys who go the 22 roads, advantage of us, I am sure we are crying together. I am happy at least, Mheshimiwa, mine, the roads were not done. Wait, let me just say this. At least I'm happy, in Mua, roads were not done, but grass does not wash away. So, kwangu niko sawa sawa Mheshimiwa. Lakini wale zao zilikatwa imekuwa machuko. Imekuwa sasa machuko.
To use two languages, you are out of order.
Let me tell you.
You are out of order,
there is one person called God who is an equalizer.
You are out of order.
Yes.
For one reason.
There is one person called God who becomes an equalizer. This rains, Madam Speaker, to me.
Order.
Yes, Madam.
Order.
Just finishing, I was saying, to a given extent, to us, Madam Speaker, some of us.
I have made a ruling that you are out of order for just one reason, that you kept mixing two languages. And
I'm sorry about that.
And number two, you have finished Number 2, why you are out of order, you have finished your 5 minutes. It is 5. Standing orders talk about 5. So you have finished.
Let me just wind up this, please, kindly. Let me wind up. So I'll be saying this, Madam Speaker. I'm pleading for the hours when the right time comes so that we apportion money for the purpose of planning. And so that's why I was winding up and saying sometimes, God becomes an equalizer. So these rains are not that bad for us. Some of us, they have been able to equalize us. So all of us are crying the same. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Thank you. Honorable Joanna, then Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also stand to support this statement, this motion, sorry. Madam Speaker, as we speak, I have received the last 2 or 3 days requests from my residents who are now victims of the disaster which is happening. There are homes which have already fallen, and my people have no place to live in. So, Madam Speaker, when we are faced with such a situation, and then we realize when we thought we have a fund in place which can maybe cushion such, then we realize we are still planning, because we have said planning is okay, but we seem to be taking a lot of time to plan. It is very unfortunate that even after allocating funds in the last budget, we have been able to consume that fund because we lack a disaster management plan, which we are still planning even up to today. Madam Speaker, I want to address bullet 5 that we should be asking ourselves if the current budget contains the 10 million in the meantime. How far are we with that planning? How many days do we expect to give the executive to spend the 10 million which is already allocated in the budget as an emergency fund? Madam Speaker, we should really be seriously moving out of planning to execution. And therefore, I want to say that however much I would wish to agree with my colleagues that there is a lot we have not done in addressing the emergencies. We are just out of the COVID-19 disaster which dealt with the county and Kenya in general. We seem not even to have picked any lessons from there. And I am sure, and I really want to say that that is one event, or rather eventuality, which forced even the former assembly to allocate and to come up with a rule of the 2% because it was a lesson. Then we set aside that fund, we passed the 90 million in the last budget, and then we settled to planning. Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate. As we end this session, I want to go home with answers to my people as to when we are going to address whatever challenge is facing them. Those who lack homes, the drifts which have been swept away, we need to work, execute the plans, execute the budgets. We are getting complaints. We are all over, even in the media as a county, with very low absorption rates in almost several of the departments. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say it is the high time we got serious. We are 2 months to another financial year, and even as we plan the budget, the next budget, it is important to ask ourselves whether we are going still to allocate funds when we have no plan in place, when we have no proper policies to execute the money. Do we allocate money first, then we sit to think on how to use the money? Or do we have the plan and then we budget the plan so that we can execute the plan? So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this and say it is the high time we wake up. Whichever department has slept, it is the high time to wake up. And as an assembly, it is also the high time to engage the executive, the departments, to come and give here quarterly reports. These funds should have been executed in the first quarter. What was happening in terms of that plan? What was happening in the second quarter in terms of that plan? We are almost ending the financial year only to realize we were forced to reduce the budget and then enter into such a situation with the 10 million on the table. And again, still, we are unable to spend the 10 million. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say I support this. We must settle and address this issue with the seriousness it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Joanna. Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll not be labor to repeat what has been said by honorable colleagues in this House, but allow me to say this. The county government of Machakos have not existed in vacuum for the last 10 years. It was there since 2013. It was there since 2017. And I also want to thank Mheshimiwa Ngonga for alluding to the fact that there's a contractor on the ground who is doing geoplanning of our urban areas, which means the current administration has learned from the previous administration that failing to plan is actually planning to fail, and they have moved with speed to ensure that we don't find ourselves in similar situations. So the Committee of Land, we want to assure you, and those who are at the meeting that we attended today, we are going to work together to ensure that the contractor is going to be paid so that we have proper plans. So going forward, I think I support Mheshimiwa Ngonga that we continue planning together. On the issue of emergency fund, the 2% would translate to 280 million. What has been reduced to 10 million is there, but we should be asking ourselves, even with the little we have, are we able to spend? The answer is no. So I support Mheshimiwa Ndawa, because what he's seeking in his motion is that we fast track the operationalization of the emergency fund. So it's not a question of how much money we have allocated. It's not a question of whether we are going to increase or whether that money can be able to be to help in any way. It's a question of whatever the amount, are we currently able to spend? The answer is no. And that's why, Madam Speaker, I would support that that this House resolves that this actually be done very quickly, that the operationalization be done very quickly.
Okay.
The other issue is on issue of investment and development. Environmental impact assessment, the Environmental Act says that development that harms its people should not be allowed. But we also know that as a county, we require investment to create jobs, to improve our economy. So that's why I'm calling that the issue that is raised in bullet number 3 be relooked at every level of the county, that every project that has significant impact on people or environment be taken seriously, and that I don't know at what point the Assembly Committee on Environment is involved in scrutinizing an environmental impact assessment. I don't know whether we ever get involved as an assembly, or at what point do we have to know that an environmental impact assessment has gone through or has not gone through? Because as an assembly, we are always going to be caught up in decisions that were made in another place, and then we are supposed now to come and rectify. So I wish and I hope that in the whole process of environmental impact assessment or even environmental audits, that the committee of this assembly that touches on matters environment is involved. And that's another issue that we should operationalize. On the issue of sustainable urban planning, we seem to be chasing attendant infrastructure after the development of investment have been done. I want to cite the case of 360 apartment. 360 apartment is a wonderful project, but they do not have drainage, they do not have a proper sewer system, yet people have bought their investment. So the developer should be able to synchronize the attendant infrastructure, that is water supply, sewer line, electricity, with the government whole infrastructure, so that we are not caught up in a place where, as Mheshimiwa Ngonga is saying, the government is chasing the developer. So in that case, we must support what the Governor Her Excellency is doing, the planning of our towns. We must respect land use zoning, so much so that you will find a person trying to build a factory in a residential area and is putting too much pressure. As an MCA, you must make sure I get this approval. Yet it's a factory in a residential area. We must be able to educate our people so that we respect land use zoning. And with that, I want to give the analogy of the monkey, if you allow, Madam Speaker. When the monkey heard that the farmer who was planting the maize had died, it was celebrated like never before. However, come the next season, the farmer was gone, and the maize was gone. Mheshimiwa Ngonga, the person who did the roads, the 22 roads, is still there, and I'm very sure she's going to redo them. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Majority Leader. Honorable DS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Stephen Mwanthi, representing the great people of Kalakala, Katini Ward. Madam Speaker, I would want to support the motion that has been brought by Honorable Dawa on the issue of emergency fund, and also on the emergency activities that has already taken place in our county, not only in our county but all over. Although as a county, we can only help families and people who have been affected just from local area, and say that, you see, Madam Speaker, we may massage ourselves and speak, but if we do not have a solution, then it becomes meaningless. In this regard, Madam Speaker, what I'm trying to say is the best cure to the problem that we have is to use bullet one from Mheshimiwa Dawa that will make the fund, the emergency fund, operationalize. And this can only be done if we give ourselves timelines. We give the executive timelines to bring the disaster management plan as soon as possible, so that the House may approve the same and make sure that even the remaining fund may be used. We may talk, and even the 10 million that we have fail to spend that money if the plan is not there, because the COB will never approve that funding if we do not have that disaster management plan. I was trying to get some information over that same disaster management plan, and I realized that on 2nd April, that's when the technical team sat and drafted that plan, and they forwarded the same to the CCM Finance, I believe, for him to forward the same plan to the County Assembly. Madam Speaker, my plea would be, let that same document be brought to the Assembly soonest possible, and then as an Assembly we also be fast track that document and pass it, so that we may have the emergency fund working for our people. Otherwise, even if we budget for the 200 or 300 or even $1 billion shillings, without that plan, we will not be able to spend that money. So I believe, Madam Speaker, that is the cure. Madam Speaker, though Honorable Ngunga has just left, is my elder and somehow my political teacher, but there are some things that, he has talked about some roads that were made. And one thing I did in my ward with that money, was to do drainage in my market. And so in Ekalakala, we didn't have such problems because we've already drained water that used to wash away our shops, that used to wash away vegetables for our business women and men in that market. So we've been planning well. We do not have that problem as he thinks, though he he looks agitated. But you see, this, Madam Speaker, this bill emergency fund was formulated in this assembly in the year 2016. 2021, we got the regulations in this same assembly where he was our leader, and he never did what now is reiterating the others ought to have done. But I believe there is proper planning, and we are going to plan for the count so that we may not have what we've seen, especially in areas of Mavoko, where our people have property has been washed away, and this will only be done or achieved if we also do proper planning of our urban areas. We've had, Madam Speaker, the KUSIP funding, that is Kenya Urban Support Program, which I believe if that money is utilized well and it comes to the 3 municipalities, Mavoko, Machakos, Tala, and Kangundo, we've been getting $1 billion shillings before, and if that money is well utilized, Madam Speaker, I believe the issue of drainage in those urban areas can be sorted and prevent our shops and people being marooned by the stormy water. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. That is very important, what you've just said. We need to take that direction. Members, do I have more contributions? Yes, now at this point I invite the mover of the motion to come and respond. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, I'll start by thanking my colleagues, honorable members, for the contribution that they have given on this noble motion. The recommendations and the sentiments that they have given are very valid, and I'm very sure if we can put them into consideration or we can make them work, I'm very sure we will have reduced the problem that is before us. Again, Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity also to advise our residents who are in the risk areas, especially those who are in the lowlands, to be conscious, because life belongs to the owner, the individual owner. And Honorable Speaker, there is a saying in English which says, no one is responsible for other person's happiness. It is you to ensure that you're happy. And if you are not careful, you'll always find yourself not happy. Honorable Speaker, Article 295 of the Constitution is the article that deals with people who risk their lives, or those who attempt to take away their lives. And I want to declare here, those who are not going to be conscious to us, we are going to assume that they are in contravention of that article, and request the departments which are being given the mandate to address such matters to do their work, because we cannot sit as an assembly and see our people staying in what we call imminent danger. Honorable Speaker, we have 2 options of saving somebody from a danger. And option number 1, Honorable Speaker, is to remove the person from the danger. And the other option is to remove the danger from the person. And for the matter before us, Honorable Speaker, the only applicable option is option number 1, is to remove our residents from that danger. Again, Honorable Speaker, Article 42 of the Constitution is the one which is concerned with issues of environment. And every citizen is entitled or has a right to stay in a very conducive environment. And for this matter, Honorable Speaker, the residents we are talking about are not living in a conducive environment. Because if somebody is sleeping in a house which is just next to the river, during the night, rain can come, water can come, and the person wakes up, he may find him or herself in another constituency, already moved from his original homestead. Honorable Speaker, again, I also want to request and warn those who are trying to divert our streams, water streams. You are trying to relocate the river from its usual place to another place. It may not be practically possible. Honorable Speaker, the site we visited yesterday, where I'm saying an Indian man has constructed a perimeter wall, the person who is employed there is an African, is a Kenyan. And Honorable Speaker, that particular worker was rescued by other residents. After the water got into that wall, it heaped there, he had to climb on a tree so that he can be safe. And that is the moment he was rescued by residents. And the residents of that particular area also took initiative. They went on the lower side of the perimeter wall and they made very big holes so that that water which had already accumulated there can move. So, Honorable Speaker, the matter is an imminent danger and we need to be serious.
But did you tell those people who are reluctant to move that they are committing what offense?
Yes, I'm saying those who are trying to commit suicide, whether committed or not committed, they can be charged with what we call misdemeanor. Misdemeanor. That is the right word. I know you are a lawyer by profession, you understand what I mean. Misdemeanor. And the remedy for that, if you are taken to court, you can be given a term of life imprisonment. Honorable Speaker, after saying that, I want also to take this opportunity to thank Her Excellency the Governor, MACHAKOS County Government. Because when she learned that our people are in danger, she took the initiative as the CEO of this county and did what was practically possible for her to do. She mobilized Red Cross officers and the county rescue officers, and it took 2 boats to Kenani. And as a result of that operation, Honorable Speaker, I want to report that 36 residents of Kenani were rescued and are camping at Kenani dispensary. We need to thank the governor for that. We have kids. The team that you were with yesterday, we visited that site. That is the center which has been said by the county government of Machakos. And Honorable Speaker, the governor went ahead and purchased mattresses for each and every resident who is in that camp. Again, as we were there yesterday, Honorable Speaker, we met with a truck, a county truck, carrying foodstuffs. That is going to be used by those residents for the period they are going to need to stay in that area. They have been given blankets, they have been given soap, and they are all happy because they are in very safe zone. So we want to take this opportunity as an assembly also to thank the governor because of that quick action, and wish other county officers, because we are also part of the government, in the case of any issue which can lead to loss of life, we need to take action. Again, Honorable Speaker, I would request those who are along the rivers, there is what we call riparian land. Riparian land. It is good to not to settle on that riparian land. Otherwise, if you are not careful, you end up spending a lot of resources constructing a house. Either it will be washed away, or one time the government will evict you from that particular area, because we need to ensure that every citizen of Machakos is in safe hand. Honorable Speaker, that is all what I want to say. And once again, let me say thank you to the members because of supporting this motion, and say the motion was not specifically for Mavoko sub-county. It was even for other areas like where we come from. Yata, in case there is issue, I'm also supposed to raise. Mheshimiwa Ndalane, in case there is an issue, is also supposed to say. About 3 days ago, Honorable Speaker, Mheshimiwa Kidhimane, Honorable Paul Bulldozer, called me and told me that there is a body which is lying, or which has been kept just beside the river. And Honorable Speaker, he requested me to assist him so that we can have that body retrieved, because the locus of that particular area, the area is called what? After the police station down there. That area. The residents could not sleep because they have that body there and they are not happy.
Yeah.
So they were requesting that the police come and pick the body. Police came before. They tried to request those who operate these boats to assist them, bring the body this side. But the owner of the boat requested for 1,500 to do that job. The police were not willing to give. They only offered 300. And the owner of the boat declined. So the following day, Mheshimiwa called me. Both of us went there. The residents were there. Then we shared the cost. Mheshimiwa gave 1,000, I gave 500. And the body was transported to the dry land. And that is when the police came to pick the body. Nobody knows where the resident comes from, because around that area, we don't have any report of any missing person. Maybe that person was swept away from upper sites of the Nini.
It would
Yes.
appear.
Yeah. So, Honorable Speaker, finally, I call upon the Machakos residents. Our schools are closed. Our students are at home. The teachers of Machakos County, the teachers of this country, gave us the students in very good shape. I'm calling upon the parents to take care about their kids, so that as the school open, they go back in the same good shape as they were. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndawa. These kind of motions, I am not required to put the question. So this is the end of the motion, and it is also the end of the session. So the House adjourns to Wednesday, 24th April, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the morning tomorrow. See you then, members.